Hello, everybody. So today's video is going to be a little bit different than my previous videos. I'm not going to address some political issue or something important in the news. I'm going to introduce you to Zoom. So I will be putting out other videos in the future, I hope. And so if you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them down below and I can respond to any of your comments and questions in the future. I already have an idea of responding to a couple of your questions that you posted already for one of my next content videos. But today, I really want to introduce you to Zoom because we're going to have a lot of students coming into class and doing Zoom videos. So I just want to do a very brief introduction, about 10-15 minutes. And if you have any questions or comments about using Zoom, you can leave those below too, and I'll try to address them. But I think it's important to at least give you some basic familiarity with what at least I'm going to do in class, and maybe some other professors will be similar. So I'm going to do a little bit of a presentation, slideshow presentation. So you should be able to see those slides now. We are moving online, and I want to make sure you all understand that this is a temporary move. APU is not becoming a permanent online education institution, but it's important that we all sort of deal with the situation that we have right now and try to get this Band-Aid on this flood of problems that have occurred. So I want to give you some ideas about what it's like to be on Zoom. So first thing I want to mention is that you should be preparing your computer or your workspace, whatever you're going to use for Zoom. I do recommend that you use a computer, not an iPad or iPhone, because you need a bigger screen. The bigger screen you have, the better it is. You'll be able to see what's going on from your professor's perspective, as well as any videos. Make sure to register for the class. Some classes may not require you to register in advance, but the professor will give you a link. Most will probably not require you to register. You'll just be able to get the class number and then go right into class. But if a professor asks you to register, it's a good idea to do so before the class starts. Make sure you have the link for the Zoom class ready. All the class links should be given to you when you enroll. So you should have that information pretty easily from the academic office. But if you don't, professors will probably post them on Manaba or someplace else, so you'll be able to gain access to those links. But make sure you have that link before class starts, otherwise you can't attend. Make sure you download the Zoom app or software. So I hope that many of you are going to be using computers. As I mentioned, I think that using the computer is the best situation. But if you don't have a computer, and if you have to use a cell phone, or if you have to use the iPad, make sure that you are ready, you downloaded the app, it's all set to go, and you logged in with your APU ID or your student ID email address, because those are the only email addresses that will be allowed into the classes. You won't be able to get in if you're using a Gmail account or anything like that. So make sure you use your university account to get into the class. Microphone and cameras. Yes, so some of you might be shy. You might not want to be on TV, on computers. But generally speaking, all students are required to have a microphone and camera. And the reason is because we want to be able to ask you questions. You want to be able to ask us questions and respond to those questions. And in terms of the camera, it's really going to be a lot easier for us and for you if we can see you. And I'll give you some tips on how to prepare your camera in just a minute and how to prepare your room. But it's very important that you at least have a camera ready in case the professor asks you to open it. Especially if we're doing exams, if you have to do an exam online, it's very likely that you'll need to have the camera on so that we can see that it's you actually taking the exam and not someone else. It's a good idea to test your audio and video before the Zoom, before you start the classes. Make sure you can hear yourself and see yourself. It is possible to test all of those settings in the software itself, but you can also create your own Zoom event. You can invite your friends, have a Zoom meeting, Zoom party with some of your classmates with your APU account. You will be able to get up to 40 minutes of free Zoom account sessions. And that's also going to be useful to do group work, which I'll explain in a little bit. In addition to preparing your computer, you need to prepare your space. That is your workspace, what's around you. Okay, you can see I'm at APU. But you may be at home in your bedroom or someplace like that, and you need to make sure that you're ready for the Zoom class. So one thing is very important is to make sure your space is clean and private. This is very important because you don't want distractions, people walking around behind you or talking to you, tapping you on the shoulder. Hey, what's that? Make sure that you're using this in your bedroom and not your kitchen, right? Not someplace where people are going to be, but where there's some private space. Now, make sure it's clean. Students can't have virtual backgrounds, only professors. So whatever's behind you, everyone's going to see it. You don't want to have your messy room all sticking out behind you so everyone can see. Make sure that when you look behind, make sure you check it out and you make sure that there's nothing back there that's going to be too distracting or embarrassing to you. You don't want any distractions. Make sure that nobody's going to be talking about you instead of talking about the professor after class. Again, make sure there's nothing behind you. A clean background is important. You know, if you want to put up a sheet behind you and just cover it, that's totally fine. And you can just block off everything behind you. But if you don't have anything like that, then just make sure you're facing the wall or something like that. In terms of your camera, also make sure that the light is not behind you, because if the light is behind you and it's coming towards the camera, then you're going to be really dark. The camera's going to adjust because it's going to see all that bright light and it's going to make it really dark. So you're going to appear dark or black to the camera. If you're going to use a light, make sure it's in the front, facing towards your face or above you, so then you won't have any trouble with the lighting in the camera and with the video. We can see your face. Make sure you have space to take notes. I know some of you like to take handwritten notes, which I think is the best way to take notes. It's the best way to get it into your head. But if you're going to type, if you're going to take notes typing, make sure you have enough space to do that. Make sure your screen is big enough so that you can see the slides, the professor, and have space to type in Word or something like that. Okay, remember, writing notes is the best thing to do. But if you're going to use another way to take notes, make sure that you have enough space on your desk to do that. Finally, you need to prepare yourself. Wake up and get ready just like you're going to class. I know many of you think this is a great opportunity. You have an 8:45 class, so you're going to wake up at 8:40, roll out of bed, turn on the machine, and start class at 8:45. Now, that might work, but I think it's probably not a good idea. You're better off waking up at 7, going for a walk, having your breakfast, taking a shower, doing whatever you normally do in the morning. Prepare yourself for class just like if you're walking into a classroom that's face-to-face. You'll be much better prepared to actually study and learn. You'll be able to pay attention a lot better. Feel free to have your coffee ready or your drink, whatever you need. I don't advise you to eat in front of the camera, but at least, prepare just like you're preparing for a normal class. Better to eat or drink before class starts. Some professors might not allow any eating or drinking at all. I will probably allow you to drink in front of the class, but eating can be really distracting, especially if you have the mic on or if you get some, cream filling all over your face or something like that. We don't want to see that. So keep that off the camera and keep the studying in your, serious face on the camera. Be awake, again, ready to go. This is just the same as any face-to-face class. It's a very good idea to review the previous notes. I tell students to do this all the time. Make sure you're ready. Review what happened the day before. Review the lecture slides. Probably a lot more professors will make their lecture slides available because we're doing classes online. So be ready for that. I do also suggest that you come to class early, at least 5 minutes early, hopefully a little bit more than that. Hopefully the class will be open, professors will be there. Even if they're not there, a lot of times you'll be able to get into the session before they arrive. Make sure you're ready and everything's working and you're ready to go when class starts. You know how I am, right? I start on time and I give you a quiz right in the first thing. So you better be ready for that. Actually, for my classes, you probably should log into Manaba also, in addition to logging into Zoom. So be ready for those quizzes right away. You can do the response stuff right on the web. You can do Manaba right on the web. So be ready for that. Okay, let me just introduce Zoom very briefly. Again, turn on your video always when you're on Zoom if you can. In general, as a rule, it's basically required to be on. But if there's some exception that there's some situation in your country or with your internet or something that you can't use video, talk to your professor and probably they can work out some arrangement. Make sure you play with Zoom on your own time. Try it out with your friends. Do some group works. Play a game, online diplomacy game or something like we do in my seminar, right? Do something to keep yourselves interactive and make sure that you can use Zoom and you understand how it works. You will be able to create your own Zoom sessions with your APU accounts. You can have up to 40 minutes, and you can have up to 100 people in the room with you. So you can take turns. Everybody can host their own meeting. You could pass the host button around so everyone can see what it's like to be the professor in the room. You can also make everyone co-hosts so that everyone has the same functions if you want. And this is how you'll have to do group work. So if the professor assigns some group work in class, you might have to join with your other students outside of class, and using Zoom is a good tool to do that. All right, so I just want to introduce some of the functions of Zoom really quickly. So when you join Zoom, if you're on the host side, if you're the professor, you'll have a whole bunch of options. If you're the student side, you'll have fewer of these options, but I'm going to introduce all of them just so you know what's going on. So you'll see this chart. You have mute. What does mute mean? It means you can't hear me. So if I let me do that. So now I'm unmuted, right? Now you can hear me again, and you're happy, right? You can hear my voice. It must have been strange not hearing me. So be aware of that. If you click to the right of that mute button, there's a little chevron there, right? Either this way or it's going to be pointing this way. If you click on that, you'll see some options, and under that options, it'll show you the speaker and the microphone that you're using. Make sure that those are set up correctly, and you can test your audio there. Next to that button is the video button. So if I stop the video, you don't see me, right? And that's not good. You want to see my face. Just like I showed you before, if you want, make sure you turn your videos on for class. And right next to that button, you will see some options to make sure that your videos are working properly. Next to that, you'll see a Manage Participants button. And the Participants button is very important. When you click on that button, you'll see a list of everyone in the class, including me, right? Or including your professor. All the students will be listed there in the class. At the bottom of that list is a really great set of tools. You'll see all these little buttons at the bottom of the list. And I want to go through them very briefly so you know how to communicate with your professor. So the first one, raise your hand. If you have a question, you click that button. It's very simple. And that button will send a notification to the professor. They will get a little notice up there that says XYZ has a question, right? And if many of you raise your hands, then we can give you permission to talk and ask your question out loud. At the beginning, most of you will not be able to talk vocally unless we give you permission. Next to that is the yes button. So if the professor asks you a question, hey, can you hear me? Click that yes button if you can hear them, and click the no button if you can't, right? So help the professor communicate back and forth using these tools without actually showing your voice. You can also just go like this or like this, right? But these buttons are quite helpful. This is a great button, which I bet you wish you had in my classes. Go slower, right? So often I know I'm speaking too fast, moving through the material quickly. If you feel that that's the case, click that button. And then I'll see when a bunch of people start clicking that button, I can slow down, I can take a break. If it's just one person, maybe I'll keep going. But if I see a lot of you having some trouble, I will slow down, and I think your professors will watch those buttons. Go faster is the same thing. If you think I'm going too slow, I'm taking too much time on something, you're getting bored, say, hey, let's speed it along, huh? And you can click that button and go a little bit faster. In addition to these buttons, if you click the three dots, you'll see a whole bunch of other options, and those are pretty familiar to you, I think. Thumbs down if you don't like something, thumbs up if you like something, clapping if you like something a lot. This one is kind of fun. If you need a break, maybe you're going too long, you're getting sleepy, click on that little coffee cup. And then maybe if the professor sees a whole bunch of people clicking on those coffee cups, maybe they can take a 5-minute break or give you a quiz or do something other than just, lecturing at you. The last one is also really important, this little clock. Now, you might find your professor is doing a slightly different way of teaching. They might call on people randomly from the class to answer questions. If you need to leave the room for a moment, maybe you need to go to the bathroom or you have some other issue going on, click on that little clock to make sure you tell the professor, hey, I'm not here. There's something happened that I had to go away. I'd also suggest maybe turning off your video so then the professor knows that you're actually not there. Turn back your video when you come back on and get rid of that clock. Click on it again, it will disappear. Okay, so those functions are a really important way of communicating with the professor when you're in these classes. In addition to communicating with those functions, you also have a chat box. So there's going to be a box next to you that's available to you, and it has a little chat window. And inside the chat window, you can type messages to the professors. Now, it's really important to make sure that you know who you're typing to. So you can look at the to box and you can change that. Sometimes you'll be talking to everyone. Most of the time, you'll just be talking to the one person who you want to talk to, the professor. And so you can type anything you want in there. You can type questions. You can say, can you review that? Maybe give some advice. I can't hear your audio. It's not working properly. Anything you want to say is right there. Now, chat is very useful, but it can be very, very busy. In a class of 150, 200 students, that window might get really full of things, and I might not be able to see what's going on. Your professors can't read all of the comments. So in that case, you know, if you have a question or you have something really important to ask, make sure you just raise your hand. Raise your hand with that button, right? Because then we'll get a notification and we'll know that you have a real question. If you type something in there, I may not see it. So it's really important. If you have something important, raise that hand, push that button to raise your hand so you can express your opinion. But if you have something on the side you just want to mention to the professor or a question you might want to go over later, you can type it into that chat window. Breakout rooms are a really great function that probably a lot of professors are going to use. So it's really important for you to recognize what they are. Breakout rooms allow us to give you a time to work in groups with other students. We will break you out, send you out to another room. So these rooms, usually the professor will give you a task and a time limit before they send you out into these rooms, but you might be set with specific groups. So you might have groups that you use the same every week, or the professor might randomly assign you to groups, which I will probably do quite a lot. I think it's fun to actually get into a room with a bunch of new students, new faces every time, and I think that you will enjoy that too, meeting new people and talking about issues in class. In the rooms, the rules will disappear. So you'll be able to unmute yourself. You'll be able to talk with students freely. You'll be able to chat with students freely, with other students. All of the rules will basically disappear. So it's really important that you engage in the topic, engage in the task that we've given you in those rooms. Chat's okay. In addition, the professor can jump in and out of the rooms. So I can come in and just listen, and I can jump out. I may talk, I may not. I might not visit your room. I may just pick a couple of random rooms and join those and then come back out. Usually they'll have a time limit. If there are TAs, the TAs might join the different rooms. So be prepared for someone popping in and popping out, listening to your conversation to see what's going on. In the rooms, make sure you pay attention, make sure you contribute. It's very important. It's part of the learning experience, right? You're only going to get out as much as you put into these classes. So make sure that you try hard and you get into these rooms and you engage the other students and you work out the problem or whatever question you're addressing. I do want to note a few things about these meetings. We don't want you to record anything because of privacy and copyright issues. Make sure you take active notes, always writing down things rather than just listening, because that will help you retain the information in class. And also in terms of technical assistance, please don't ask your professor, even though we would be happy to help you deal with any technical issues you're having. There are too many students in the class and too many problems that might occur for individual people. If there's a big problem, like my voice can't be heard, then everyone will let me know, I'm sure, and we can address those kinds of issues. But if you're having a specific issue for your computer only, it's really important that you contact the media center or the student assistant and deal with those issues on your own. Okay, some last do's and don'ts, just some very basic tips, some last tips. Do, again, treat this as the same respect as a face-to-face class. Pretend like it's the same thing. Don't do anything differently from that. It's a place, public, it's respectful. Remember, you're in public. You're not, even though you feel like you're in your private home or in your private room, it's not private. People are there watching you. Take active notes, have use of microphone and camera. Make sure you test everything before the class, okay? Come to class on time or early if you can. Communicate with the professor as much as possible using either the chat or those buttons, you know, raising your hand and saying yes and no. Try to give us as much feedback as possible so we know what's going on in the room. Don'ts. Do not record the lecture. Don't eat in class. It's sort of distracting, especially if you're eating, right? I mean, maybe if you're into those ASMR videos, maybe that will be interesting for you. But if you're not interested in that video, you don't really want to hear someone munching away at their sandwich. don't be distracted. Don't use other programs while you're in this. Don't be, playing video games or watching YouTube or something like that. We can actually see that. We will know if you're watching other things. So don't be, we don't see it on your computer. We don't see what's on your computer, but we do have a record of how long you're actually using Zoom and whether you're not actively using Zoom. Don't answer the phone or use other devices. Don't be distracted by people behind you. And very importantly, don't use multiple devices to connect to the class. Don't use your phone and your computer and your iPad. So be aware of those issues. Try to follow the rules. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Contact the student office or the academic office, and we can definitely help you. If you're having technical issues getting your equipment to work because you're testing it, right? Make sure you contact the media office, and they will help you with any issues that you have. All right. And don't forget, make sure you give me a thumbs up if you like this video, if you found it helpful. Check out the other videos that I've published already. Make sure you subscribe. It's up there somewhere. Subscribe to the channel. You get notified of future videos. And if you have any questions or comments, type them below. I'd be happy to address them either here or in another video in the future. So thanks again for watching. See you later.